was a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
He's a group of doofuses in flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
ask him how many.
What he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, yeah.
He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this thing, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, and I think also, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them. And I think he took that hit and really doubled down the other.
Jimmy Kimmel just got slapped with a $500 million lawsuit by none other than President Trump, and Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly are absolutely thriving in the chaos. Rogan lights into Kimmel like he's bombing at open mic night, roasting him with zero mercy. Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly slices through his Hollywood arrogance like a hot knife through a vanity project. From self-righteous monologues to full-blown legal drama. This isn't just backlash, it's a brutal comedy roast, disguised as a courtroom saga. Buckle up, because Kimmel's collapse is shaping up to be the most savage late-night plot twist of the year.
People, our allies in Ukraine, for NATO.
How much it costs to produce Jimmy Kimmel's show? I guarantee you it's tens and tens of millions. It could be as much as 100 million. I have no idea. You know how much Tucker's video cost? Nothing. You know how much Jimmy Kimmel, how many people he gets tuning in on an average night? Just last week, his average was, in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on.
Last night wasn't just a bad night, it was a catastrophe for women, children, working-class immigrants, climate advocates, the uninsured, the poor, and even our global allies from Ukraine to NATO. And in the middle of that mess, Jimmy Kimmel. Let's talk numbers. Producing Jimmy Kimmel's show reportedly costs tens of millions, maybe even north of $100 million. And for what? A dwindling audience. Just last week, he averaged 1.5 million total viewers. In the coveted key demo, only 236,000. For comparison, Tucker Carlson would have cringed at those numbers. His video content, shot for free, distributed in minutes, and reaching millions. Then came the shocker. Joe Rogan could barely contain his laughter as he read the headline, Donald J. Trump yes. Still, the ultimate political chaos agent had officially filed a $500 million lawsuit against Jimmy Kimmel. Not a cease and desist. Not a PR statement. A full-scale $500 million legal smackdown. Rogan was wheezing before he even finished reading.
Chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs, and then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to applaud. They're like, okay, explain to the people. Yeah. Okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause.
He leaned back in his chair, eyes wide and laughing like he'd just seen a kangaroo knock out a heavyweight champ. Of all the headlines flooding the news cycle, this one was comedy gold. Jimmy Kimmel, the king of smug monologues and safe-shot sarcasm, had finally poked the bear one too many times. And this wasn't just any bear. This one came strapped with lawyers, subpoenas, and the sheer force of federal muscle. Joe Rogan was living for it, grinning like a gamer who just found out his favorite franchise dropped an unexpected sequel. One with way more explosions.
And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced, darning socks Oprah. Now, if you are of the left, that's fine. If you are of the right and happen to just say, hey, people used to wear blackface and nobody freaked out about it.
Joe kicked things off with a killer analogy. Jimmy Kimmel getting slapped with a $500 million lawsuit was like a house cat picking a fight with a freight train. There's bold. And then there's whatever unhinged cocktail of ego and delusion Kimmel must have downed before assuming the President of the United States would just giggle at being roasted on late-night TV. According to Joe, Jimmy seems to think snark equals Immunity is, if hiding behind a desk and reading jokes off a teleprompter somehow makes you invisible to lawsuits. Spoiler alert, it DOESN, single quotes
Horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities and it wasn't a big deal. Absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr. Kimmel, whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star.
Joe tore into Kimmel's smug act like it was his opening bit. Watching Jimmy try to land political punchlines, he said, is like watching a chihuahua bark commands at a SWAT team. It's loud, it's relentless, but no one's actually taking it seriously. And now, that yapping just came with a $500 million price tag. Then Joe went in for the kill, dismantling Kimmel's entire comedy style. It's the kind of forced humor that makes nervous interns fake laugh just loud enough to keep their jobs, he scoffed. It's not edgy, it's not clever. It's the comedic version of warm milk, comfortably bland and forgettable. It doesn't wake you up. It just numbs you into thinking real jokes don't exist anymore.
Ow. Tucker's numbers were 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcasts out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay? 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks.
Rogan leaned in and delivered the real punchline. The comedy wasn't Kimmel's show, was the delusion that he still thinks he's the cool kid in the cafeteria. Bro, Joe laughed. You're a network puppet with a Hollywood laugh track. The rebellion ship sailed 10 years ago. Now you're just clapping back at power like a substitute teacher with a whistle and a dream. Then came the freight train metaphor. Joe said, Kimmel going after Trump night after night was like throwing a pebble at a freightliner, and then bragging about the dent. Sure, it made noise. Sure, it got attention. But now the train is suing in. It's charging the price of a private island. Rogan couldn't stop cracking up at the mental image. Jimmy Kimmel, frantically calling his lawyers while scrubbing old YouTube clips. Like a guilty kid erasing chalkboard insults before the principal walks in. And this lawsuit, it wasn't just financial ID, was psychological warfare. Trump didn't just want to win. He wanted to own Kimmel. He wanted Jimmy to sweat during lunch breaks, whisper about defamation laws to baristas, and wake up in cold sweats muttering court date, like it's a horror movie. Then Joe twisted the knife with a dose of irony. This is the guy who made a name, roasting celebrities, now crying foul because one of them isn't laughing back. It's like the school bully getting upset when the quiet kid finally punches back, except the quiet kid is Donald Trump, and he just brought 500 million reasons to ruin your Wednesday. Joe doubled down, saying Kimmel's jokes about Trump weren't even that clever. They were surface-level jabs you could find on a snarky Twitter account with 10 followers and way too much free time. But somehow, Jimmy convinced himself he was leading the comedic resistance. Spoiler alert, you're not Jon Stewart, and even Jon Stewart would have told you to get some new material years ago.
The problem with that kind of stuff is it continues to go in the same direction where more and more things become forbidden and toxic, to the point where, you know, the Elon Musk joking around about my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Jimmy Kimmel made a tweet back to him. He said, your pronouns are ass and hole. Which is pretty funny. But then,
Did he really?
Yes. And so then I read that, and there was people saying, please don't joke about pronouns. It's transphobic to joke about pronouns. So they were chiding him.
As Joe wrapped up his roast, he delivered one final jab. Let's be honest. This lawsuit is the most exciting thing to hit Jimmy Kimmel Live in years. At least now, people are Googling him for something other than reruns and cringy interviews, with actors trying to sell the next doomed superhero reboot. While Joe laughed his way through the chaos, across town, Megyn Kelly wasn't laughing, she was loading ammo. She didn't enter the conversation, chuckling. She entered like a seasoned sniper, mused but ice-cold, like someone who's watched this show before and already knows how it ends. To Megyn, this wasn't just a headline. It was political theater, inevitable, poetic. The late-night jester had finally pushed too far. And now the king was swinging back, armed with a golden gavel and a $500 million wake-up call. She shredded Kimmel's self-image in seconds. Jimmy's the kind of guy who confuses applause from a Hollywood audience with actual relevance. she said. He thought mocking Trump behind a desk made him some kind of comedic rebel, when really, he was just reciting someone else's punchlines. Dipped in lukewarm sarcasm and served with all the edge of a butter knife. The only risky part of Kimmel's comedy, Megyn smirked, is whether the audience can stay awake long enough to fake a laugh.
Weak and pathetic as a guy like that. The Tonight Show, which is dying. They're all dying. Where's Johnny Carson? Bring back Johnny. It made you appreciate, right, Uncle Sam? It made you appreciate the greatness of Johnny Carson. I go on his show, and he goes, "Is that your real hair?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you mind if I mess it up?" So he grabs it, and he starts really going crazy, right? And everybody laughed, and it was a big thing. It was a big hit. It was all over the place, and he got great ratings and all. And 6 months later, he went out because he was under pressure to apologize because he humanized.
Megyn Kelly didn't critique, she dissected. With the precision of a surgeon and the flair of a veteran media assassin, she carved into Jimmy Kimmel's persona. Yeah, he was funny once, she admitted, back in the days of The Man Show and cringeworthy skits that wouldn't survive a second in today's climate. But that Kimmel, long gone. What's left is a network-approved version, corporate safe, brand polished, and perpetually outraged in a way that reeks of desperation. He's like the high school class clown who became a hall monitor, Megyn said, and now he's shocked no one takes him seriously. Then she landed the real punchline. Kimmel, mocking Trump nightly while assuming immunity like satire was a force field. It's one thing to throw shade, she said. It's another to forget that the guy you're roasting is a billionaire president with lawyers faster than your teleprompter. Mocking Trump during his presidency wasn't bold, it was safe. It was like yelling at a mirror. All smug, no stakes. Loris Kaismug. Megyn called the lawsuit karmic comedy. The man who built his brand, laughing at others now facing a legal avalanche for thinking he was untouchable. And no, she said, this wasn't a free speech issue, it was about cheap shots. And when those cheap shots finally come with a price tag, you don't get to play the victim, especially not when your whole job revolves around provoking reactions for ratings. She couldn't help but laugh at the thought of Kimmel scrambling to his writer's room like it's a panic bunker. You just know his staff is feverishly rewriting monologues, trying to stay legally clean while still pretending to be edgy. It's like watching a magician try to pull a rabbit out of a hat that's already in evidence. She smirked. The trick's over and the audience isn't clapping anymore.
Tonight was the 96th Academy Awards show, and while you might have missed it, there was one clear winner. No, not Oppenheimer. It was sanctimonious leftists for their lead role in pretending they are better than you. Several people shared in this achievement. Winner number one, Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore black.
But Megyn wasn't done. Not even close. She said the lawsuit shattered the carefully crafted illusion that late-night hosts live inside some untouchable comedy bubble. Kimmel has spent years dining out on anti-Trump material, parading as the brave voice of the people lol, while forgetting that if you live in a glass studio, maybe don't throw bricks at the president. Then she turned her gaze straight at Hollywood. Jimmy's not just a guy with a mic, she said. He's a cog in the self-congratulatory media machine, one that believes criticism only flows one way. When Kimmel mocks Trump nightly, it's celebrated as comedy. But when Trump punches back, suddenly it's tyranny. Suddenly, it's a threat to democracy. Megyn rolled her eyes, like someone who spotted this double standard for the 100th time. She even joked that maybe the lawsuit was the best thing to happen to Kimmel in years. It's the only reason he's trending, she quipped. The only reason anyone's tuning in again. Let's be real, his ratings needed this punch in the face. Trump might not just bankrupt Kimmel, he might accidentally resuscitate his relevance in the process. Megyn then painted a deliciously brutal picture. Kimmel, sitting under dim studio lights, lawsuit papers in hand, dramatic music swelling in the background as sweat trickles down his brow. Suddenly, it's not a skit, it's real. It's $500 million real. At this point, she smirked. Jimmy better start selling those desk mugs. The crocodile tears, And maybe a few celebrity phone numbers, because he's gonna need every dollar to survive what's coming.
Obscurity. Nobody's going to care anymore. It's like you're seeing it take place with late night television. Nobody gives a fuck about it anymore.
I know.
And it's slowly, you have a bad business model and you're not adapting.
Yeah, the creativity's gone for late night comedy, right? Like, that's not really a thing.
And then Megyn said what everyone else was thinking, but no one else had the guts to say out loud. This wasn't about silencing Jimmy Kimmel. This was about making a statement. Trump didn't just want to win in court, he wanted to send a message, the era of smug celebrity activism without consequences. Dead, take shots at the king, she said, you better not miss. And Jimmy, he missed like a blindfolded toddler at a dartboard. As the heat cooled and the laughter settled, Joe and Megyn stood on opposite ends of the same battlefield, different styles, same smirk. Two completely different voices, finding rare harmony in mockery. Because in the saga of Jimmy Kimmel versus Donald Trump, one thing was clear, this wasn't just a lawsuit, it was a roast wrapped in litigation. And for Jimmy, the punchlines were finally starting to land on him. Joe came back in hot, practically wheezing with laughter, shaking his head like he'd just watched someone slip on a banana peel while holding a wedding cake. Then he hit Kimmel with one last jab, the most poetic part. He said, Jimmy finally got what he always wanted, Trump's attention, just not the viral kind, not the retweet, not the clip, not the monologue moment. This kind of attention comes in the form of court papers and a dollar amount so ridiculous, it sounds like something a kid would scream during a playground argument. You owe me $500 million.
That's him or a writer, can't you tell?
Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah.
No, it's him, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
good. That's a good one.
He's a comic.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he used to host the Man Show. I mean, he's done some pretty outrageous shit back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, for hee-hees and haw-haws.
No, that's a good joke on top of a good joke.
Yeah.
Joe summed it up with one brutal metaphor. Kimmel poked the bear butt, forgot this bear owned skyscrapers, an army of lawyers, and presidential-level immunity to boredom. Trump didn't fire off a tweet, he sent a wrecking ball. And now Jimmy's left standing there, mic in hand, delivering punchlines that all come with legal disclaimers. Joe couldn't help but laugh. Next time Jimmy cracks a Trump joke, he said, there's gonna be a row of attorneys sitting front row like it's defamation, the musical. Then, in classic Rogan fashion, he got philosophical, his version of a TED Talk in a hoodie. This whole saga, he said, proves one thing, being loud isn't the same as being brave. And just because you've got a camera doesn't mean you've got armor. Kimmel thought he was out here slaying dragons when, really, he was just launching spitballs at a tank. And now, the tank's pulled into his driveway, with a lawsuit in one hand, and a smirk in the other.
I'll tell you, he's not the worst. The Daily Show has the worst ratings. They only have 366,000 people watching that show. During the Jon Stewart years, it was over 2 million. Now it's down to 300,000. Seth Meyers, absolutely dreadful. He doesn't even have 1 million, 778,000. I mean, in network television, this is, you don't have to pay for it. It's there when you turn on your TV, you plug it in. That's a dreadful number. Greg Gutfeld on cable, which you do have to pay for, it has more than double the numbers of Seth Meyers. Jimmy Kimmel, 1.5 million averaging, also equally horrible. And then there's The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, who back when I was there, 2017-18, he was averaging 2.3 million a night. Now he's down to 1.3 million, Jesse. And he cannot afford the "you are toxic" controversy because he's also pulling in reportedly over $15 million a year. So you got all that money for 1.5 million in audience, which is a nothing. I mean, the middle of the day on Fox News gets that, or at least used to before the Tucker controversy.
Meanwhile, Megyn lit her torch, again grinning at the thought of Kimmel spending his weekend Googling how many jokes equal defamation. This is the same guy who once pranced around like a comedy rebel, she said. Now he's about to find out what real resistance looks like. Not hashtags, not celebrity claps. Real legal firepower, the kind that doesn't care about applause, Twitter trends, or Emmy statues. She predicted he'd try to spin it, maybe turn it into a segment, maybe even milk it for sympathy. But the truth was staring him down. Jimmy got too comfortable. He thought mocking Trump was a risk-free sport. But now the scoreboard's leaten Jimmy's on defense. And as the cameras rolled, both Joe and Megyn seemed to agree on one thing. Jimmy Kimmel isn't just the jester, lobbing jokes from the safety of the tower anymore. He stepped into the arena. And the lion decided it was feeding time. And that roar you're hearing, that's not laughter. That's the sound of a $500 million lawsuit, and it's just the opening act.